enabled. ICICI, Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present the India Risk Management Awards.
In today's interconnected and interdependent world, there are newer kinds of risks that keep surfacing from time to time. This poses a real challenge to today's CEO, who not only have to manage traditional risk, but also be ready with right strategies to beat the new age risk. These risks are unique and the source difficult to trace. In fact, the new age risk comes as a sudden blow and spreads fast. Given this kind of scenario, what should the CEOs do? How should they manage risk along with growth? Let me ask two experts who are with me in the studio for answers to managing new age risk. Dr. Janmejaya Sinha, Chairman of Boston Consulting Group, India. Dr. Sinha advises companies around the world in the areas of strategy and corporate governance. He has also authored two books. Mr. Bhargav Dasgupta, MD and CEO of ICICI Lombard General Insurance. He underwrites risk smartly, and that keeps his stakeholders fully insured and happy with some great services and superlative performances. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Bhargav, if I may begin with you. We instituted the India Risk Management Award some 5 years ago. In the last 5 years, what kind of risk have impacted the business, and what has been the preparedness of corporate India?
You know, why just 5 years? I'll look back maybe 18 years that we've been underwriting risk as an insurance company. We started with this risk management journey maybe 5 years back, but the entire approach at that point in time was a pivot away from being a risk transfer partner, which is what insurance traditionally does, to become a risk management partner. And it was in a sense, a leap of faith that we took at that point in time. Now, when you look back and analyze the reaction that we used to get from clients at that point in time, I don't think they were really clear about what is it that we were talking about in terms of risk management partnership. They saw an insurance company as a pure underwriter of risk and someone who kind of did risk transfer services where you were paid a premium and you paid for the claims if something happened. That in the last 5 years we think has fundamentally changed.
Okay.
A lot of clients today are expecting us and are very happy to see us provide the services around risk mitigation, risk management. That's one change that we've seen. And I think the underlying reason for that is a greater awareness and the importance of managing risk vis-a-vis what we saw 5 years back. So that's one big change that we've seen. I think the second change that is probably more recent is the fact that most corporates are today worrying about not just the traditional risks, which were basically, catastrophic risks or geopolitical risks or terrorism risks, but they're also worrying about the new age risks that you talked about.
Yeah.
The risks of cyber, the data theft, the reputation damage that it causes. And what is more interesting is that people are realizing that you have to deal with both risks at the same time. As it is that you're not, handling the first set of risks is not easy. This new emerging risk is even more difficult to understand and manage. And you have to deal with both at the same time.
So what is the level of preparedness you feel corporate India has been doing in the last 5 years? You think?
I think on the first one, clearly we are seeing improvement, and clearly we are seeing a lot more awareness, consciousness and preparedness on the first, the traditional risks, if I can call it that. The second one, which is the new age risks, are really very difficult for people to figure out because it's completely new. It's almost like you're in a boxing ring with your eyes blindfolded, and there are 3 other boxers fighting against you, and you don't know where the next punch is going to come from. And that kind of a situation is very difficult to deal with. So people are aware and conscious and very worried, but they're kind of trying to figure out how to deal with this.
Dr. Sinha, you think Lehman Brothers crisis put the spotlight on risk management as a practice?
See, I think the Lehman crisis was, in a sense, a Ponzi scheme. It was fraud.
Okay.
So the way people were 2%, there was leverage was 40 times. And so once you lost 2% of your capital, actually you were bankrupt. And when they were creating these CDOs, these corporate debt, the rating agencies which were rating these CDOs were rating them AAA till they defaulted. And 60% or some large percentage of their fees were coming from rating CDOs. So there was a big conflict of interest and everyone was making money. I remember Chuck Prince saying, you know, as long as the music is playing, you have to keep dancing. But we don't know when it will stop. So I actually feel that was a preventable crisis, you know. The current issues that are coming in with this new age is really complicated. You know, I don't know how many boards will suddenly shock the board by saying there is a malware attack and being asked for $300 million. What do you do? How do you react? How many people have actually got the board to suddenly be shocked and say 3 hours, go sit and figure out, should we pay the ransom, should we not? What do we do? How much is at risk? Now you look at it, operational risk is the biggest risk and most of it comes from technology and every part of it. Whether there is a hacking attack, whether there is data stolen, whether there is a cyber attack which is state-run. 5 countries today have the capability to actually attack you with cyber, which will be more paralyzing than a nuclear attack.
So, Bhargav, in this age of Industry 4.0 and fintech technologies, are these new age risks becoming more complex and dangerous when you look at your own books also?
No, absolutely. As Janmejaya said, you know, apart from the fact that they are completely new and evolving and as traditional corporates or even new age corporates, you don't even know what is happening and what can come and hit you at a point in time. Number one. Number two, the scale of impact is tremendous. It's not just about, you know, if you have a flood event in Chennai or Kerala, it's kind of localized.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a problem at that point in time for people there, but it's localized. Unless you look at global supply chains, any of the cat events don't disrupt the you know, the global you know, engine of commerce. But what these events can do is, given that we are living in a very, very network world, it can spread from one part of the world to another in matter of seconds. I mean, you have, and let's to add to that point, what Janmejaya said, you have not only unsavory actors playing this game, you have nation states playing this game. It's very difficult for individuals or corporates to fight against nation states. And when you see an event like, you know, what happened with WannaCry, or let's say the attack on Ukraine spreading to across the world in matter of minutes, it tells you how large and how impactful these events can be. So I think what we need to do is not only as corporates, I think it's something that at a national level we need to think about. How do we protect ourselves? And by the way, India ranks the number 2, you know, country where against whom cyber attacks are being perpetuated.
Okay.
So as a nation, we need to have our own policies to defend ourselves against some of these activities of nation states, apart from, you know, individual actors.
In fact, I really want to pick up on what Bhargav was saying. There are 5 nations, US, China, Russia, Israel and Iran, which have cyber capability which is warlike. Okay. Now, it is a sad commentary on India that despite all our IT skills, despite so many people in Silicon Valley being from of Indian origin, we are not prepared for this yet. So the fact is, first we need to have a a national level defense. The second is the corporate has to know when it is going to lose. If, you know, when the Democratic Party of the United States of America could not take on an attack, you know, from WikiLeaks, think about what would a normal company do.
So you're saying we should have something like national disaster management for the corporates?
Absolutely. I mean, we need first, I think there are 3 different issues. There are issues where people are wanting to make money. That is defensible because you have to decide when the hacker comes, you know, how you deal with it and what you do when there is a ransom demand. When this happened recently, 2-3 companies paid $300 million, you know, as ransom to get their computers back. Now, what is your policy? How much is available where? What is your backup? You need to understand that. But if a country comes after you, you have to be able to tell your customers, look, against this we can't do very much. These were our protocols, they were all reasonable. But you know what, I mean, this is like somebody drops a nuclear bomb on you, what can you do?
So what you're saying is cybercrime is very ubiquitous and all pervasive, very difficult to detect. So what should India Inc. do? What is the antidote for that?
I don't see it as an antidote. I think what Janmejaya said, you need as a nation of our importance, we need a national policy on on cyber defense, if I can call it that. Given the fact that I completely agree that there is a below the radar global warfare happening right now. So we need a defense mechanism which is at a national level. Thereafter, at individual corporates, there are of course few sets of things that you need to do. It's not as if just because it's such a large scale event, you cannot say I can't do anything and throw up your hands. You have to prepare for some of these things that you can do. And there are things around the policy, the governance structures, the tools, the culture, because one of the things that we find is it's not just having the right protection tools, it's not about security systems and firewalls. It is also about what happens with employees and how they can be fooled to do things which create breaches in your security system. And that is all about the culture and the training and, in a sense, a zero trust culture of not trusting anything that comes from anywhere. Most of the simple phishing attacks have led to big breaches, right? So you have to first have a culture of distrusting anything that is coming in from outside or probably even inside. So I think there's a lot of things that corporates need to do in terms of building their defenses. And as Janmejaya says, that there are certain things that will happen in spite of your defenses. Correct. You have to have your scenario planning ready for your reaction if and when that happens. If it's a nation state attacking something, or in spite of your defenses some breach has been found, you need to have your policies ready to handle reputation management.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present the India Risk Management Awards.
The old economic company being threatened from born digital companies. Now, there is an interesting survey done by a productivity risk survey, and I'm quoting them. A majority of respondents said that companies with investment sunk in legacy IT infrastructure face significant impact risk from born digital companies, unquote. So my question is, how do you see conventional companies preparing for risk from these born digital companies?
We should not overstate born digital and conventional companies. There are 35,000 companies in the US exchange. 12,000 of them die in 5 years. Yeah. So many of these, so to speak, digital natives are also having very quick new age death. Yeah. We have old age death and new age death. So the fact is, of course, conventional companies have all of inertia against them, the way of working against them, their sunk costs against them. So we have to then start figuring out, Roy Amara in the 60s had said, the impact of technology is always overestimated in the short run and underestimated in the long run. So right now we are all talking about it, but companies are not changing. But in 5 years or in 7 years, they will not exist if they don't change.
That's interesting. I think that is what...
And I'll just step in and add to what Janmejaya said. I'm so happy that, Janmejaya, the strategy guru, is saying this, because that's exactly how we think about it. It is not about traditional companies or new age digital companies. It is about companies which are adaptive, which are willing to change, and the ones who are not complacent about their success. You may be a large company, a successful company today, but if you think that gives you a right to win the battle 5 years from hence, you're dead. And equally, for a new age digital company to come in and think that just because they're digital, they will win the battle, I think that's complacency at another level. So it is about the awareness that the world is changing rapidly. I have to be aware of it and may take steps to adjust to the new world, and internally have a culture which is adaptable, flexible, willing to learn and morph with the times. Yeah. And that can come from within a digital company or from within a traditional company. So the ones who will win will not be necessarily traditional or digital. It will be companies which are adaptive.
So what did your study throw up? I believe you all did a study of top 100 companies to assess their understanding and preparedness of new age risk. Did it throw something interesting in terms of trend?
We did top 100 companies in this country, and we saw that 73% of the companies said that they are worried about the point that we were discussing, traditional and new age risk. Yeah. No one is saying that I'm worried about this or that. People are saying that I'm worried about both coming and impacting my business. And that's a good start, because the fact that you're acknowledging the risks is the first step in mitigating risk. The second thing that came up is that about 71% of the companies then said that we admit that we don't know how to deal with this risk. I thought that was very frank in terms of acceptance of the...
71% said that.
Yeah, 71% said that, we are challenged to solve this problem, and which is reality. I think all of us, whatever we will be doing at a point in time, we have to admit that it is a risk that we haven't got a complete handle over. So we need to be aware that there are certain things that we don't know. And to that extent, it was fresh. The number was quite fresh in its attitude. The third thing that we found, which of course as insurers we really were happy to see, was that they were looking to insurers to, looking for insurers to partner with them in helping with them with this problem.
That's what the survey said. 71% depended on insurance to give them the
solutions.
Guidance.
Yeah.
So how do you keep ahead of the curve and advise them de-risking strategy?
It's not easy. I mean, one of the things that we've done on the traditional risks, on the physical risks, is again use technology to our advantage. So I'll give you a couple of examples. One of the things that I said right at the beginning is that we said that we cannot just become a risk transfer partner. We also have to solve the underlying cause of losses. I mean, become a risk management partner. And in today's days, technology allows you to do that pretty well. So if you look at claims analytics, you can identify where the problems are. Then you go and do a root cause and figure out, can we find solutions? And so simple solutions using technology could be in terms of sensors, could be in terms of IRTs. So we've used telematics to control marine hijacking claims. On the new age risks, we are helping clients with a ecosystem of partners that we've created for ourselves, helping clients in terms of the policy framework, in terms of some of the governance practices that we believe is appropriate, things that Janmejaya was talking about, in terms of helping them with ethical hacking partners who will do testing of your preparedness of your systems. Some of these things we've done. Plus, we've created a knowledge center with cases and examples of what we've seen, and using that to socialize the risk within the within the partner, within the insured company's organization. So we've done some of these things, and we will keep learning and building upon that.
But I want to understand, in terms of new age risk versus traditional risk, where is the scale tilted? It's more towards new age, or it's equally? What is it? When you look at your portfolio, when you do the survey,
so I think the risk currently is still greater in old age risk. Okay, but the unknown is really an unknown.
Unknown. Okay.
Because it's growing, but the amount, how many attacks have there been where companies have had to pay ransom because their computer systems have been hacked? Not that many. And every day the old risks are continuing. But the truth is, our mindset has to really adjust very quickly to this, because it's coming, and it will, we have to just recognize that all this has happened in the last 5-10 years.
So that brings me to the final question. So how do you future-proof the company?
So I think the first thing that at least we believe in is the fact that as business leaders, humility is very, very important. You have to know that you don't know everything. Okay. The second thing is arrogance. In today's world, if you are an arrogant leader, or if you're an organization, you're an arrogant organization, that is itself a death knell for the future. So you have to appreciate that whatever you've done in the past has brought you here, need not necessarily take you to the next level. So you have to have that mindset. And finally, it's not just about having that mindset, it's also acting upon it. So you cannot be complacent. You have to be very, very vigilant about these risks. You have to be very vigilant about the fact that this technology change is also going to change the dynamics of business going ahead, and how do we prepare for it. And you can't do everything yourself. You have to do it with partners. It is an ecosystem game. It is not a single player who will do everything. And you have to have, even if you are a large company, you have to be flexible about working with even small companies, because they bring something of value which you don't have within yourself. I would think these few things are very, very important for you to build a business which has a chance of success maybe 10 years later.
Dr. Sinha,
so,
last word to you.
There is one beautiful quote from one of my colleagues who said, changing the paradigm is the price of surviving success. Which is really interesting,
which is very,
because
very
your success can become your hindrance, unless you are willing to change the paradigm. And changing the paradigm, when he had written it, it was a bit more about the evolving strategies. I think now changing the paradigm is on every dimension, how your structure is, how your business model is, who your partners are, where you are competing, all of them come into play. And the future is not far. Time has telescoped, so you have to act faster. Everyone should try and take 1 month out of the year, and try and think of the year as 11 months rather than 12, a week as 5 days rather than 7, So you have to just become faster.
Okay, so that means the key takeaways to my mind is changing the paradigm, humility, and you have to change. And that's the only way you can future-proof the company. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for being on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ravi.
ICICI Lombard and CNBC TV 18 present the India Risk Management Awards. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.